True story, folks. What I'm telling you now, you can research, Google, Wikipedia, whatever you want. I want to say it was 1942. No. No, you know, it wasn't. I honestly don't know, but I wasn't born when it happened. So that, like, at least, like, it was a long time ago. Yeah. But this next story I'm going to tell you, like, from that Fort Lauderdale story, the next story was 10 years ago, so there was no disappearances for a long time. The next one actually didn't occur straight away out in the Bermuda Triangle, okay? This is a story of a girl named Tina. Now, basically, Tina, she lived in Fort Lauderdale. She had two older sisters that were twins. So there was two older sisters that were twins. The two older sisters, they didn't like Tina very much, basically. Now, the reason I know this story is because the sister did some bad stuff and they're now in jail. And because they're in jail, the authorities released the files on that case. And that's how I know exactly what happened. Basically, Tina's sisters, they hated Tina. Tina was a tween. She was about 12, 13 years old. She was loved by a friend. She was very popular. She had the looks. Her sisters, I mean, I've never seen photos of her sisters, only in the paper, but I can't really remember. But they hated her. They were very jealous of her. Now, Tina's mother had passed away at a very young age. So it was just their dad, Tina's sisters, and Tina. Now, the sisters decided, to cut a long story short, really, to get rid of Tina. You know what I mean, right? They decided to get rid of her. Good. Now, Tina's father is a local fisherman out of Fort Lauderdale. He doesn't own a big boat, just a small little fishing boat. He goes off the coast a few miles, gets some fish, come back, sells them to the local stores and shops, okay? But if any of you live in Florida, hands up, you'll know that in Florida, to be able to drive a boat, you need to be 14 years old. Now, the sisters were older than that. They were able to take the boat out by themselves. Now, they decided that they were going to tell Tina, or ask Tina, if she would go on a fishing trip with the sisters. Now, Tina had no beef with her sisters. When the sisters asked her, she was very happy to go on a fishing trip with the sisters. So, it was early August, about 11 years ago, that the sisters and Tina, they took the boat out. They were about 2.5 miles off the coast of Fort Lauderdale. Now, what happened then is one of the sisters struck Tina round the face with an oar, okay? Tina then fell off the boat, fell into the ocean. The sisters then proceeded to drive away to leave Tina. But the sisters were smart. They cleaned the oar, and they also brought snorkeling equipment with them. Now, they threw into the water some snorkeling equipment, and as they were sailing away, they called the Coast Guard and said their sister has gone missing, and they were snorkeling off the boat. Tina went under the water and did not come back up again. Now, Coast Guard done a search, they couldn't find Tina. Tina was presumed dead. Now, I don't know if you know, but it takes a couple of years to actually be announced dead, but they had a burial and everything like that. And Tina's sisters, they went to court, and they were found not guilty of anything. Their story was believable. I mean, the people believed it. But that is not the end of the story, because 5 years later, there was a fisherman who fished out of Cape Canaveral, Port Canaveral. He had a big fishing boat, like the fishing boats you see on like the Deadly Seas and stuff like that on Discovery Channel, or Deadliest Catch. Big.
There's people.
Hi guys, come on down.
Thanks for joining. What are they doing?
The ghosts were up there.
Blackbeard was like in our way or something.
It's the accent.
Look all the way down. Jesus. Ridiculous.
Good job, guys.
I don't have any space. I have like 1.2 gigs of space.
You'll probably catch up.
Shh.
Now,
Guys, be silent, okay?
so basically,
Truffle.
Tina was dead in everyone's eyes, okay? But the fishing boat out of Port Canaveral, like I said, was a big trawler. And when the captain was pulling up, well, the captain's crew was pulling up the fishing nets, there was actually a body wrapped up in one of the nets. Now, that body was still alive, barely breathing. captain called the Coast Guard helicopter evacuation back to Cocoa Beach, the hospital right near Cocoa Beach. Now, it was Tina. Now, how was Tina alive for 5 years? These are the questions unanswered. Some people say that when Tina was struck, a pirate ship, not like Captain Jack Sparrow pirate ship, but like the pirates that we have these days, they captured Tina and they promised Tina freedom for work, basically to be the pirate slaves. Okay, now this does happen. Pirates take people captive all the time in this world. Some people say they took Tina captive, made her work for 5 years. Maybe Tina got sick of it, knew that they weren't going to let her go, so she jumped overboard. Or maybe this pirates just had enough and threw her overboard, okay? Some people say maybe she washed up on one of the many hundreds of little islands that are unpopulated in the Bahamas or around the area, and she ate coconuts for 5 years, saw a ship and swam. Or some people say just the mysteriousness of the Bermuda Triangle kept her alive. Believe what you want, okay? Let me finish the rest of the story.
Why doesn't Tina just answer?
Now, Tina can't tell us because when she got to the hospital, now, God forbid any of you have been through a very traumatic event, but if you have, you'll know that with a traumatic event, sometimes you actually lose memory. You actually black out everything that happened to you that was bad. Now, Tina actually couldn't talk. She was pretty much brain dead. She couldn't talk. She was pretty much paralyzed. She could just breathe, basically. Now, when she got to the hospital, the doctors contacted the next of kin. Unfortunately, Tina's father had passed away due to the stress of Tina's death. It was so death at the time. Tina's father was no longer there. So the next of kin was the older sisters. One of them was now married, one of them now worked in a bank. Now you can imagine when the doctors call up the sisters and say, hey, we think we found your sister, can you come and check it out? They're going to be like, oh, beep, right? So, like, the sisters, they needed to make sure that Tina couldn't remember anything. So they went to the hospital and they asked to speak to Tina. They said, look, Tina doesn't talk, but sometimes if you're like a coma or you can't remember, maybe someone familiar talking to you will maybe bring you around, okay? So the sisters went in, they asked Tina a series of questions. Tina, what happened? Tina said nothing. Tina, you know, blah, blah, blah. Tina said nothing. Tina, oh, who did this to you? Tina said nothing. Oh, Tina, so on and so on. We'll just say the questions at the end there. And then the sisters were happy. They're like, okay, she's brain dead. Let's go. So they left. But 7 months passed. Now the sisters actually went back to the hospital quite often just for like show, because they were proven innocent of the death, and everyone was happy, and there was no speculation around the sisters because they were found not guilty in the first place, and now Tina was found alive, so they couldn't have murdered her, right? So 7 months passed, and they got another phone call saying that Tina had actually started talking. Great news for everyone except the sisters, right? But they said Tina basically couldn't say hardly any words, just her name and a couple of other words. So the sisters wanted to see if Tina could remember what happened. So they went back to the hospital. They asked some series of questions. They were like, Tina, what happened to you? According to the report, Tina's only word was Tina. So her name was like, Tina. They're like, Tina, what happened to you? Where have you been? Tina's like, Tina. Like, Tina, like, it's been 5 years, you know. They're mocking her, basically. Tina would just lay there and reply, Tina. They're like, Tina, who did this to you? And Tina said, you did! Now, folks, that's just a little punchline to the story, okay? The story is true. I just worked that a little bit up for a joke, okay? But the story...
She needs to clean underwear, she like.
Yeah, you got the bathroom? No, okay. Now, Viva, you look pretty terrified too. Again, please, that's not the end of the story, because that little you did thing didn't happen, but the story honestly is true. But what actually happened is Tina came around enough to write a statement or to speak a statement that it was the sisters that in fact did it. Tina then passed away. Okay, she didn't die as soon as she written the statement, but like she passed away before the trial, and Tina's sisters actually admitted to the murder, which is what it turned out to be. Sisters are now in jail. I can't remember how long the sentence is for, but let me tell you, they're not going to be out anytime soon. Now,